Hey guys, I'm JanetOnOccasion, and today we are playing a demo, weirdly. I know, this game's coming out like later this year, at some point. There's no like release date yet, but anyway, I thought I'd give this a go, because it's quite fun. It's an interesting sort of interactive story thing, which, if you guys have been following the channel, I've been trying to play a lot of these, because I do enjoy them. I don't know how many of you guys tend to, but I do, and sometimes I like to play things just for me. And if anyone happens to be enjoying it, then more power to you. So, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Heart of the Forest. This is based on the, the World of Darkness universe. So if you guys don't know, there's a whole sort of tabletop RPG sort of setting. So things like Vampire the Masquerade, that is one such sort of installment in that same setting. So this is in the same setting as Vampire the Masquerade, though it's not part of the Vampire the Masquerade video game series, even though they're based in the same universe. Very different mechanics. This is more an adaptation of the sort of the tabletop RPG mechanics in an interactive story, rather than being a action RPG thing like Vampire the Masquerade is. So anyway, we'll hop right in and we will play it, and you'll see what it is. Presumably. Progress will be deleted, that's fine. I played a bit on my own just to get a feel for it. But yeah, I've actually had this in my library for a little while, and I haven't got around to playing it. You might notice that seems to be the trend this week. I'm trying to play a few games that I've sort of had on the docket for a while and just haven't got around to. So, Prologue, Premonition. Start the chapter. It looked like there were some eyes there a second ago. There's some. I see that. And over there, and over there, and there. There's quite a few eyes, in fact. I'm just going to start the chapter. So, straight away, as I always mention, whenever I'm in a game with these sort of, illustrative things, I always point out how much I love illustration in games. Just, there's something really great and visceral and tactile about nice illustration and illustrative design. It's beautiful. I love it, especially just the minor animation layered on top of illustration. It's a very pleasing thing for me. I really like it. Whereas these symbols, I believe, have been ripped straight from the tabletop, so they're not in the same sort of exact same illustrative design. But anyway, tutorial. This game is about rage and how it helps us do things that need to be done, as well as things that we later regret. Sometimes both. How do you feel about that? Great. I'm always angry. I'm okay with anger when it's useful, or, well, I prefer to think before I act. I'm okay with anger when it's useful. Let's go with that. Okay, so our stats are getting adjusted by our answers. So, your rage is balanced. So, you're the critical and analytical type. That's okay. There's no right path here. Just your decisions and their consequences. Let's start already. We have a story to tell. Or, I get it, my decisions need to be fair and just. Or, let's just follow the path and see where it takes us. My decisions need to be fair and just. We have one analytical. Okay. The woods are full of stars. They flicker. Come closer. Run away. They want to chase them. To play hide and seek. I hunt. They dance around the tree trunks. Float up on the gusts of wind that shiver through the branches. Disappear among the leaves. I let out a howl, eager to run with them. I want everyone to know I'm there. Then they bunch up and fly toward me like an arrow, rushing down. They're soon upon me. But just before the spear of light pierces my breast, they disappear, and the dark of the night returns. Balanced. In the darkness, I feel the tangled roots of stories keeping the forest alive, and I hear the spirits asking asking me to judge the enemy. I open my eyes, and then I wake up. Cold and alone. Confused, I open my eyes. The forest around me is thick, dark, and reeks of decay to such an extent that it's hard to breathe. I know the forest. I know this place. I've been dreaming about this forest since I was a child. The tree trunks, wrapped tightly in dark-leaved ivy, are covered in ripples of lichen where the vines haven't taken hold. The thorny, leafless bushes at their base are overrun with nettles. The fungi radiate with a ghoulish, sickly green light. Dark, sponge-like mushrooms cling to the fallen trees. I try to breathe. I take a deep breath and suddenly realize that it's not the forest that smells so foul. It's me. I look down to see my hands covered in a dark substance. I'm naked. A sticky, glistening film of liquid is clinging to my skin. I can feel it on my face, in my hair. Blood. I'm alert. Nature is never quiet. The leaves rustle in the wind, small creatures scuttle in the undergrowth. There is a whisper. I don't understand what it means, but the word resonates in my head. Garou. Who said that? There is a severed head right in front of me. I'm gonna be sick. Or I went and touch it. I mean, this loses us rage, I think, and this costs us willpower. Because the thing, the stats are your resources, essentially. I went to touch it. I'm going to touch the head. Overcoming my disgust, I gently touch its wet hair and watch as the head topples over. Here I am, being like, oh god, it's a head! Ah! Some choices are hard to make, and they strain your willpower. Yeah, I noticed. Balanced, the face is contorted, the eyes bulging, the mouth open as though their head were still struggling for air. I balk because I recognize who it is, and then eyes open in the darkness. The enemy! I can see their silhouettes. Shades of jet black against the darkness. They reek of metal and acid and oil and money. Massive creatures, some with mandibles, some with spidery legs. Their faceted eyes burn like small industrial furnaces. I look at them and something wakes inside my chest. Cold fury. The entire existence is wrong, an abomination to the natural order. They have been judged and found lacking. I straighten up, ready to carry out my sentence. In a moment of clarity, I almost understand what the forest wants from me. And then I wake up. Chapter 1. Arrival. Again, I love this design. It's just gorgeous. I am completely enamored by the visual style of this game. It is so charming. Also, the tears. If you notice, it's 3 claws, much like the rage thing that tears across the screen. Reveals more. It's lovely. And just this simple way to be like, yeah, we're on a bus journey. Things are moving past. But again, it keeps in that very, just like, illustrative design. It's wonderful. I love it. Anyway, Maya? Maya! Maya, wake up! I jerked upright, irritated. My neck was stiff, and the moment sent a sudden, sharp wave of discomfort through my body. I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was sat on a bus. The sun streaming through the windows was making it hard to see. The girl next to me was touching my shoulder, disturbed. So I have high rage right now. So I push her away, because I'm angry. Because, you know, I'm a werewolf, presumably. I imagine that'll be the twist, you know, because it's a werewolf game. Or what happened, which will cost me some willpower, I guess. I don't know, I don't use rage on what I assume is a friend of mine, so I guess... What happened? Anya. This is Anya. Okay. What happened? Overcoming the urge to push her away was hard. Overcoming a rage strained your willpower. So presumably it wouldn't have cost us willpower if our rage wasn't already high. So anyway, she looked at me concerned. You were screaming. I blinked. The memory of the dream was still there. I slowly unclenched my fist. I looked outside. I was glad I wasn't alone. Thank you for coming with me, I said. The girl next to me smiled. I think we're almost there. Her name was Anya. We'd met a couple of weeks earlier on the orientation day. She was from Norway, a tall, broad-shouldered, calm person who wore her long hair in braids. Somehow, I'd managed to talk her into this crazy field trip across the land of my ancestors. Anya was sympathetic. She seemed excited. We were there to study medicine, so we get a different option here, because she was sympathetic, because, you know, we said it's nice we weren't alone, basically, so we'll go with this option. She seemed excited. That's we're Anya. No, she's Anya. Her name was Anya. Anya reached into her backpack and took out 2 apples. I'm really happy we decided to come here, she said. Yeah? I said, offering her some of my cabanossi, dried meaty sausages that were so much better than the original Polish ones back in the US. I was glad Anya had decided to come with me. I had problems keeping friends around and really needed one. I did some searching, she said, from over her phone, and this place is amazing. The last primordial forest in Europe. This trip was my idea. Our summer language course was starting in a few weeks, and I'd managed to talk Anya into skipping the tours of concentration camps and old churches and visiting Bialowaitza. Again, I don't speak. I say again. For the first time, I don't speak Polish, so if I get some of this pronunciation wrong, bear with me. National Park with me instead. So far it's beautiful, she said, her eyes smiling. But why are we here again? Good question. Why were we here? There being Bialowaitza, something like that, a small village in northeast Poland near the border with Belarus. It was famous for its national park, the very last European bison, and, according to a quick web search, occasional tensions between far-right troublemakers and the local Belarusian community. The most honest answer would have been because I've been dreaming about the forest in Bialowaitza since I can remember, but people didn't understand when I said things like that. I looked into her eyes, and I can't say that. I don't have the willpower to push past the, I guess the fear of her thinking I'm weird. I can't push past that to tell her everything because I don't have any willpower left. So presumably we'll get some back at some point, but who knows. I keep it simple, so I wouldn't freak her out. I told her as much as I could. I'm going to tell her as much as I could. Family. It's complicated. I wanted to see the forest. I heard it was a must. That wasn't technically a lie. When I was little, my grandfather told me stories about an ancient forest full of wonders and the wolves that lived in it. It was all I got from that part of the family before my mum took me, ran away, and cut off all contact with my dad. But I remember the stories well, and I remember the name of the forest. Putska Białowieska. Yep, good enough. This will always be our home, my grandfather used to say. I waited for her to respond. Anya fell silent for a moment. I think it's great that you come from such a magical place, she smiled. The last ancient forest in Europe, thousands of years old. I wasn't sure if I was fond of that magic, but it was hard to ignore. Anya joined you. And that was precisely why I needed to do something, anything, about that damned forest and my weird-ass family. I had to learn the truth about my roots. Goal, learn your family history. My grandfather's stories, the secrets, my mother running away, there was a mystery in my past. It was time I uncovered the truth about who I was, but now I wasn't so sure if it had been a good idea. Condition, impaired willpower. Okay, so the fact we have no willpower, that is, yeah, that's created an impairment, apparently. Your willpower dropped to 0. When you lose all your health or willpower, you become impaired. This will make physical tasks, if you have 0 health, or social and mental tasks, if you have 0 willpower, harder and sometimes impossible. Bialowaitza. Okay, that's how I'm going to say it. Probably. Most of the time. Unless I forget and say it differently. I don't know. Looked like an overexposed photo of a village with a contrast turned all the way up. The sun wasn't just shining, it was shouting at the earth and everything. The trees, the grass, the wooden houses, the fences seemed weathered. Everything except the shadows. They were sharp, as though they were freshly printed with the darkest of inks. And they moved. For a second, I could have sworn that they moved. But then I'd realized it was just a black cat walking down the sidewalk. When it saw me, it stopped in its tracks. The whole scene felt weird. Huh. I turned to Anya. You ever seen a cat act like this before? What? I don't know. She shrugged, looking around. Didn't you say a friend would be waiting for us? But he wasn't there, and the cat was still staring at me. Let's go. Anya put on her backpack. I'm tired, and I really, really need to find a toilet. I didn't know what to do. I was too tired and distracted to think clearly. My friend was nowhere in sight. Yeah, we've got high rage. We'll see what happens if I spend some of it. It might make us more calm for later decisions, which might be important given the fact that we have no willpower left. So I stormed off. I grabbed my backpack and started walking. I hate when people are late, I muttered under my breath. I was walking fast and it took a while for Anya to catch up with me. Bed and breakfast. Bialowaitza had a few hotels and hostels, but the preferred form of accommodation was bed and breakfasts. That's where we stayed. I found one that was nice, clean, and that had good reviews. We had a room on the second floor with a huge window and had a great view of the forest. We dropped off our stuff and freshened up a bit. Maybe we should have waited for your friend? Anya asked, concerned. I shrugged. I'll find him sooner or later. Before you go, check out your couch sheet. Look for it in the upper right corner of the screen. Okay, Maya Borodich. That's who we are. You can find a lot of useful information about Maya, her background, personality, goals, and so on. There, you can also check who your friends and who your enemies are. Bialawaitsa was a quaint tourist town. But I had other things on my mind, like, who am I again? I forget. Again, love the character sheet layout. Just the illustrative approach, it's so nice, and the black and white is just such like a bold contrast. Like, it's nice and clear, but then little scratches in the back, it fits the whole thing, but like, it's nice to have this as an additional window that doesn't, like, blend into the background. You know what I mean? It's wonderful, I love it. So, sorry guys, I like design, and this is nice, it's beautifully put together. So, Maya Borodich, 24, profession, student, nationality, American. Personality assessment, not very brave, not very inspiring, not very analytical, not very spiritual, not very cunning. She kind of sucks. Mind and body condition, impaired willpower. Goal, learn your family history. We pursue that to regain willpower. So that's how we regain willpower. We have a goal, and we try and push towards that goal. Relations, family, it's complicated, and Anya is sympathetic to us. So, yeah, we're a lonely sort, aren't we? So, but I had other things in mind. The lay of the land. Wow, this is, again, gorgeous. I had a clear goal in mind. My family was entangled with this town and the forest. I had to uncover my roots. Anya went with you. The forest I dreamed about. I guess that's the only place I can go right now. Also, now this is... so it's the shape of the town, but also you can see it's put the rooftops of the town in, which is just... it's really charming. So, forest. The forest I dreamed about. Into the woods. It was dark in the woods. Dark, humid, and chilly. The leaves didn't let through a lot of sunlight. Daniel looked at Anya and me over his shoulder. How did you like her? We'd met maybe 20 minutes earlier. Anya had googled local guides, and he was apparently the best person to go to if you wanted to see the forest. So I found him, and now here we were. I wasn't sure whom he meant. Do you mean the forest? I asked. Polish was a strange language that gave the most unexpected genders to objects and ideas. I mean pushka. He gestured around us. The word sounded like the wind rustling in the leaves. Pushka. Pushcha. Pushcha? Pushcha. Okay. That's how that's pronounced then. I wish I'd do that with all the words. Pushcha is the right word, not forest. Forests are like fields or orchards, cultivated. He spat as he said it, and Pushcha is... she's older than even the concept of fields. He was using the word as though it was a name. I stood there and watched the forest. I looked at the Pushcha again. I like that. That's sort of acknowledging that it's not a forest. It's, you know, it's coming around to his way of thinking, which is sweet. I looked around with fresh eyes. Analytical. I felt as though I'd entered a majestic hall where the queens of old had given their rulings. The trees stretched towards the sky like columns holding up the vaulted canopy, which blocked out all but a few rays of sunlight. Gigantic fallen trunks were decomposing slowly around me, sentenced to death for unknown crimes. Young plants and colourful mushrooms sprouted from them, not knowing that they would also be judged. How would my conscience fare in the trial? So again, I like the fact that it's the brutality of nature, because it's the dichotomy of human and beast, right? This classic werewolf stuff, but they're using the scenery around to invoke that same, you know, those same questions of like the divide between sort of human morality and nature. So it's kind of cool. I loved what I saw. It was alien, or there was something unsettling about it all. I loved it. I loved what I saw. Give me some willpower back. I don't know why it would. I just want willpower back. There should be more places like this, I said earnestly. Or more of this place. Daniel lifted his head and looked me right in the eyes. Yes, you're right, he said with a serious expression. He was a strange guy, slender but muscular, not the CrossFit type. It was more the kind of strength you got from working all day long in the open. His skin was weather-beaten and bronzed by the sun, like tanned leather, and he moved in a very deliberate way. But his fingers were slim and delicate, and his eyes were a stranger shade of yellow-green. Then I remembered why I was here. Why I was there. Not here, there. I was there. Now I'm here. Perhaps he knew my family. I asked him about the local legends. So we are supposed to be finding out about our family? But I wonder if our family are a part of the local legends. Right? Saying specifically, hey, tell me about my family. But I don't know your family. Who the hell are you? I don't know. Whereas saying local legends, it might be like, oh yeah, there was a family of werewolves that would dream about the forest and come back. And that might be a bit more suspicious for us. I don't know. But this has the word family in it, and this is a prologue, so I'm assuming they kind of want to push you in a direction that so you can kind of figure out the game a bit. So I'm guessing. I haven't been this far into the game. I really did only play like up to the bus trip and go, okay, this seems interesting. So yeah, I have no prior knowledge of this place. Perhaps he knew my family. You're a local. Maybe you've heard of my family? I asked. I'm not from here, but my family was, I continued, and to think something secret connects me to this place. I dream about the forest a lot. Daniel stopped abruptly and turned to me, watching me for a while. His nostrils flared, as if he were tasting the air. Kind of like a dog would do. Yes. His face broke into a smile. I think our families might have known each other many winters past. Pushcha still remembers. Come on. He started walking. I know exactly what you need to see. That piqued my interest. Nice. We got some willpower back. Goal progressed. So, I was right. There was something hidden in my family's past, and it seemed to have a lot to do with the forest. Every time you learn or do something significant that brings you close to your goal, you regain willpower. With every step, I was getting closer to solving the mystery, so I followed him. At the crossroads. Interesting. So all this is the forest, isn't it? There's a town way over there. Cool. At the crossroads, we have to choose a path, he said. There's the old wolf den, or I could show you the barrows first. What a clearing that some folks call place of power. Ancient graves, buried secrets. Magic tourist trap. Oh, Wolf's Den. Old stories, families divided. Ancient graves. Families buried in graves. Wolf's Den. Probably wolves. Magic. Because we're wolves. I don't know. It all seems very relevant to me. So, I don't know. Let's go to a place of power. That's what Geralt would do. And we are in Poland, after all. Just one small thing. We started walking, but after a few steps, he stopped abruptly, like he'd remembered something. Then, he turned to me. Could you humour me, please? He asked. It depended? Nah, screw it. Sure. What's the worst that could happen? We're with a strange man in the woods. Yeah, man, sure. What do you need? I smiled. He ran his hand through the moss on a dead tree trunk, smelled his fingers, and then reached into his pocket. He took out a small stone. Too small to be a weapon. Something personal? It was just a stone. I say, something personal? Inspiring. It looked like one of those stones you treasure as a child, and then you grow out of. But he looked at the pebble as though it was still a treasure. The game tracks your decisions on how Maya approaches problems. They will accumulate and gradually reveal what kind of person she is, deep in her heart. The story changes to reflect Maya's personality. Yay! That's what I was hoping this game would do. I would like you to take this stone. He held out his open hand toward me, and throw it in the direction you think we should go. I humoured him. Of course. Okay, I said, reaching for the stone. I took the stone and closed my hand around it. Be careful, whispered Anya. I felt alive. I've never hoofed a stone in a forest. They all hoof it at that crow. I was curious. It was warm, and I felt grounded when I squeezed it. I closed my eyes and thought about the place of power, trying to imagine that place. I thought about energy emanating from the ground, filling me to the top of my head. I could see myself standing barefoot on the moss, surrounded by trees. And we have height rage. Throw the stone. Rawr. I felt my hand rising entirely on its own, and then throwing the stone as far as I could. It was a good throw. The stone flew in a long arc over the bushes and disappeared without a trace in the dense undergrowth. Great, Daniel sighed. I was asking for that, wasn't I? He wanted the rock back. Why? What was that for? I demanded. To introduce you, he answered with a faint smile, before he turned to head deeper into the forest. Okay. Huh. Not really sure what he meant by that. A buzzing in my ears. It started with the hair on the backs of my hands rising. The air around me seemed brighter, lighter. The leaves and the tree trunks turned yellow and my skin started to prickle. There's a wolf! Look, wolves! Wolf silhouette. Ooh, wolf silhouette. Or, could be a badger. That does also look like a badger. Anyway, so I realised that I couldn't hear anything except for a low buzzing that was filling my ears. I was hot. My bones were vibrating, full of energy I couldn't contain. I had to do something. Snap out of it. I lashed out on the nearest tree trunk. I screamed. I willed it to stop. Huh. Let's attack a tree. Not knowing what to do with all that energy, I kicked the nearest tree trunk. Look out! Anya screamed. There was a cloud of dust and rot, and the buzzing grew louder. I felt a sting, and then another, and another. I think we've just... The buzzing was bees, wasn't it? We just kicked a bunch of bees. We're not the brightest, are we? Hang on, let's check. Brave, inspiring, spiritual, yeah, not very cunning. Yeah, not a cunning move. Let's kick a bees. I started to run. How do you fight a hive? You don't. You just hope that you can outrun it. So I ran and I hoped. And then there was an opening. And light. Real light. Not the yellow buzzing. I felt everything become still. The clearing was a plateau between huge boulders. There were double-trunked trees between the rocks and an angular wooden construction that stuck out of the ground like a sore thumb. There was a bike leaning on it. But, more importantly, there was a man. And he was moving in the most beautiful, harmonious way I'd ever seen. So, some guy doing Tai Chi on the forehead of a badger. It was hypnotising. I'd never seen a badger dance before. Analytical. Which, I mean, we're not very analytical, so it's a pretty low bar. I looked at him for a moment, at the way his muscles danced under his tanned skin, but soon I realised it wasn't about him. It's about the way he weaved himself into that place. A harmonious presence moving, but not disturbing anything, bringing balance to the clearing. The wasps that were flying after me stopped in mid-air, forming a ball. The man slowly moved his hands forwards, like he was gently pushing them away. The hive turned around and left the clearing. The words came out of my mouth seemingly without my knowing. What did he do? What? How? What did you do? He smiled. It's a little bit complicated. He stretched his hand toward me. I'm Cornel, he said with a hard, I'm Cornel, he said with a hard German accent. That's my best one, guys. I'm sorry. Shouldn't you be on the logging site? Daniel asked him after I introduced myself. I needed to center myself, he answered. The others are still there, don't worry. They were cutting down trees in this forest? Center himself? Here? So, do you want to be defensive of the forest? Or learn more about this place? This specific place? I'll learn more about this specific place that wasps are too polite to chase people into. How could you come here to center yourself? I asked, remembering the buzzing, restless energy from moments before. This place is special, Daniel said. So some people call it a place of power, as I told you. And they have good reason. And they have good reason to. Cornell added. Look around you. And so I looked. It was a clearing filled with light. I could see Cornell's traces, a beautiful pattern in the ground, but there was one thing that caught my attention more than anything else. Fruit trees. Being real angry about fruit trees, that'll lose us some rage. Or calm us down, perhaps. The tower spoiled the serenity of the scene. The boulders around us were strange. Interesting. I think we need to get our rage under control a little bit. So, fruit trees. Fruit trees? Are these fruit trees? I asked, not quite believing my eyes. Here? In the middle of a forest? Just noticing them made me feel a little more at ease. Yes, pears and apples. Cornell nodded. People believed this was a place of worship thousands of years ago. Hence the fruit trees, the stone circle, and now the tower. And indeed, there was a lot of energy in this place. You felt it, didn't you? I'm starting to sound Russian. Not a good sign. I can never hold on to an accent for long. Anyway, it was... it's probably the heat. I think it's going to be more analytical. Cornell. Cautious. I shrugged. I felt something. Maybe it was just the heat. No, I don't think so. Cornell answered, slightly annoyed. The pushcha is wounded and in pain, and it calls out in rage to anyone who can hear it. Here, this place is louder. You see the logging. His eyes darkened. Is slaughter. Anya gasped quietly. Every priceless thing could be destroyed by greed. Logging is illegal, of course, but illegal is something just a way of saying a bit more expensive, but still profitable. Especially for huge corporations. The forest is hurt. The wound is getting bigger, as is its desperation. Why does no one know about it? It was wrong. What did the forest want me to do? It was wrong. Alright, Cornell's neutral to us now. Good. This is wrong, I heard myself say. There was no defiance in my voice, only cold certainty. This wasn't about anger. It was about what was right. Cornell regarded me for a moment with a faint smile. You have a connection with this forest, don't you? You should come to the logging site and meet everyone. Now he's got French. He could be from anywhere, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Absolutely, Anya said eagerly. I became suspicious. It sounded good. Maybe he could help me with the dreams? Yeah, why not? Maybe he could help me with the dreams. Cornell is now sympathetic. I looked him over for a moment. Hey, did any of you maybe have strange dreams about the forest before you got here? He looked at me, a look of concern in his eyes. As I said, you seem to be connected with the forest, and very sensitive to the things that are happening here. Pay attention to your dreams, especially tonight. This place is known to communicate in that way. He jumped suddenly and looked at the wooden tower and the bike I'd noticed earlier. Die Schwalbe is getting restless. Whatever that means. Something shadow related, possibly? Anyway, I don't speak German, so yeah, I don't have much to go by. He said, and as Daniel pointed out, I should be on the logging site setting up protest. Schwalbe? What is a Schwalbe? I asked, confused. He named his bike Swallow. Oh, a swallow, okay. Daniel explained. He loves it very much. Cornell grinned. Oh, I do. Nice meeting you, Maya. The moment he disappeared, the buzzing came back. It wasn't as strong as before, but it was there. All I wanted to do was get out of there. Huh. Through the forest. Forest was alive around us, vigilant, but not alarmed by our presence. Okay, well, looks like it's going to give us a chance to go to a few of these spots. Logically speaking, we should go to the next closest one, but I'm too tempted by the ancient graves. That sounds kind of darkly sinister, and I like that. It's a werewolf game. We've got to go to the sinister places, right? Oh, God, I love this illustration stuff. Oh, it's so good. And look at that. You can see it's all very handcrafted. You know, it's got a look of sort of, like, emulsion. Ah, it's wonderful. Anyway, the dead hills. The trail soon disappeared. Sometimes we walked along a barely visible path made by some animals. Sometimes we followed a stream or a gully. But for most of our trek, we walked through the dense undergrowth. So, balanced rage. So, a bit more chill now. Daniel looked like he knew the way, but I kept second-guessing him. I looked at the moss growing on trees, but it was growing everywhere. The sun was barely noticeable through the dense canopy, and it was on my left-hand side, which might have meant we were heading north. It was a pleasant walk. And, oh, Pushcha is sympathetic. The forest is sympathetic. Interesting. It was a pleasant walk. There was always a path through the brambles. The ground was even, and the branches stayed out of our way. I always felt like the forest wanted us to find the way. Daniel was a mystery I decided to solve. Is that going to give us another ambition? I wonder. Or another, what's it called again? Another goal. I watched the efficient and deliberate way Daniel moved, and I tried to guess his background. Why had he become a guide? I asked a few obvious questions. I tried to guess his background. Make it into a game. Might be a giggle. I wonder. Because we are analytical. More so than before, in fact. So, like, maybe I could guess. I'm gonna give it a go. But making a game of it might make him want to be more, you know, forthcoming. Are you military? There was something dangerous in the way he moved. Yes, I used to fight. He said nothing more. Don't hit me. Alright, maybe not. Asked a few questions. Drop it for now. That seems like a weird thing to suddenly come out and say. But again, werewolf time. You know how they roll. This seems like it might lead somewhere. You know, seems like it might. I think Anya might think we've gone insane, though. In fact, Daniel might think we've gone insane. Ask a few obvious questions. Because we just got some willpower back. Where are you from? I asked the obvious question. From around here. He made a vague gesture. Are you a professional guide? That's what I do for a living. He wasn't very talkative. Leave him be, whispered Anya. Hit me! I'm going for it. Analytical. Oh, cool. Put that up. Out of willpower again, though. Suddenly, it all came together, and I realised that what was so unusual about him. The way he moved. It was so natural, so effortless. No one who'd spent their childhood sitting all day at school or in front of a screen could move that way. Who are you, Daniel? I asked, bewildered. Were you raised by wolves or what? He looked me straight in the eyes. His irises are mesmerising yellow-green. Yes, I was, he said with a poker face. Then he winked. Anya smiled uneasily. We continued in silence. We'd been walking for a while when I noticed that Daniel's steps had become slower. He was also looking around more often, and had hunched slightly. Oh dear. Is he going to kill and eat? Maybe Anya, maybe not us. Maybe he'll be like, hey, should we eat Anya now? Because you're a wolf too. Something like that. Because werewolf games, you know? Fuck, we're lost. Or I just enjoyed the moment. Or was it the barrow? So do you want to gain rage, lose rage, or... I mean, we're in the middle for rage. I don't think we need to be any higher. Necessarily. I think a couple of rage might get us out of a bind if need be. So that's okay. So I don't want to lose any more, though. So I'll say, was it the barrows? This is more analytical as well. And we seem to be getting our analytical skill quite high. And that might also get us out of a bind later, if there's like a tough skill check or something. I know, I'm gamifying it when I should be just, you know, getting engaged with the story. But it's in keeping. I've been very analytical thus far. So I'll continue on. Are we there yet? I asked. He froze for a second as though he'd forgotten that I was there. They're tricky to find sometimes, he mumbled. Be quiet for a moment, please. That was when I felt it. Ash in my mouth. The smell of smoke and wet soil. And a pull. I knew where to go. I think I know where to go, I said, surprised. He tilted his head. Okay, let's check it out. He pointed to a barely visible path to my left, under a dying tree. Sorry, I pointed to it. He followed me, and I followed my feet, knowing exactly where they should go. Under the crooked tree, past the dead tree trunk, and the sponge-like mushrooms, across the patch of wet, dark moss. Dark green moss, rather. All the way to the place that didn't look much different than other parts of the forest, until you noticed the elevations. There was something about the flattened hills that drew my full attention. They must have been bigger in the past. I could remember. I felt dizzy. Got no idea. This is much to go on, huh? They must have been bigger in the past. I can imagine them vividly when they were built. The tall, proud barrows. The dead decomposing underground, returning to the earth, feeding all the new life that was growing from them. The trees around us were the fingers of the dead sticking out of the ground, and then it happened. It was a feeling anchored in my chest, akin to the taste of ash in my mouth and the smell of smoke, longing sadness. Resignation. But there was more. A sense of sacredness. It filled me with a calm excitement, and when I closed my eyes, I saw a fire burning in the darkness. Voices. Analytical. The village was burning as people fought among the flaming buildings. I watched them with detachment. They were fighting to the death. Some in ancient Roman armor, some in rags, some in animal skins, some in uniforms from the World Wars, some in modern camo. Are we worthy? Are we finally worthy? They looked at me and begged, "Will you judge us?" I'd already judged them, or I shook my head. Huh. Again, don't know the ramifications of judging ghosts. Also, if I judge them poorly or well, are they, do they float my boat? Do they float my ghost boat? Or do I want to stay out of this? I don't know. I already judged them. Whatever, I'll poke my nose in where it probably doesn't belong. But they already been judged. That's why they were dying. When I opened my eyes, Daniel was watching me. "You were somewhere else," he said. "You said you had family here?" Oh, jeez, they all are family. Ugh. That's worrying. I don't the question, I lied. I nodded. I heard my family's family came from here. Father's family came from here, rather. I nodded. I don't know much about them, though. He sighed. I don't think you should be here, she said tersely. "You're not ready." He knew something. Also, he's turned into a she in this sentence. I think that's a typo, because the stuttering implies that it's Daniel, right? Or has it been Danielle the whole time? No, it's just Daniel, right? Yeah, he said. It's been saying he a lot. Yeah, that must be a typo. Anyway, either that or this forest does, impressive things to people. I didn't feel ready, or he knew something. He knew something? Why? What do you know? I wasn't letting it go. About you? Not much, but I know the Pushcha. The past is close here. His eyes were worried as he looked at me. And if the Pushcha calls to you, it's wise to listen. But it's not wise to get lost in the voices. Come. On the way back, I was lost in my thoughts. The voices in the vision knew what I had to do. It's almost as though it was expected of me. Was this what my family did here? Or, grr, I'm angry. I discarded that thought. Was this what my family did here? I think I might give willpower back, but you never know. Why did Daniel ask... Ooh, good. Brilliant. Why had Daniel asked about my family? Was the vision showing me what my ancestors had done here? I wonder if the people dying in the forest were our family, or they were the ones that our family had hunted. Ooh, now there's a thought. Because, werewolf game. I accepted that thought. Yeah, quiet resignation. We've come the whole way across the, the world, right, to learn about our roots. I think we need to accept them, If we weren't ready to accept them, we'd be ready to go halfway across the world with a bunch of strangers and figure this stuff out. So anyway, so yeah, goal progressed. Lovely. I smiled. A bigger picture was finally starting to come to light. Justice was in my blood. The walk back was uneventful. Alright. So, are we about to go to the wolves' den? Yes, we are. The forest was alive around us, vigilant, but not alarmed by our presence. Alright, I guess we're going to the wolves' den, huh? Huh. The old den. The first thing I noticed when we stopped was a pine tree. A pine tree I knew! I know that guy! I remembered it, small, twisted and crooked. Growing on the side of a hill, fighting for light and balance, robbed at level ground. It had to make do, to adapt. Months before that, when I decided to come to Poland, I dreamed of that tree. I was sure of it, just like I was sure that under its roots I'd find a burrow. And a few feet away another one, like two dark eyes gazing at me as I approached. Daniel passed me and approached the tree. He pressed his cheek against the trunk. Hello? He said quietly. Was there someone else there? Hello again? I said nothing. I think we let him do his voodoo. I looked around, but we were the only people there, so I remained silent. A sudden gust of wind threw a cloud of dust in my face and into my eyes. This is the den, announced Daniel. More like Daniel. Got him. It's abandoned, of course, but still worth seeing. Why is it abandoned? It didn't look very impressive. Why was it abandoned? Let's not shit on its dens, okay? Why is it abandoned? And again, it's analytical, isn't it? Or is it? Maybe the other one is, because we made a judgment already. This one is trying to gain information. The other, anyway, it's all learning. What happened? I asked. Humans happened. Daniel sighed. He sat under the tree, leaning his back against it. It was a hot spring morning when they found this den. No one knows who the men were, even though it was only one human generation ago. There were 6 cubs here under the roots of this tree. He'd stopped stuttering and seemed to enjoy telling the story. I enjoyed listening. And I enjoyed listening to it. There was something calming in his voice and the way he talked. His slow gestures and wistful eyes made me feel though I was with the cubs on that hot spring morning. I don't think they wanted to hurt the wolves, he continued. They probably thought they'd been abandoned. That's why they took the cubs with them. Humans have this instinct that makes you try to befriend everything, especially if it's dangerous. This instinct that makes you try. Notice how he's not referred to himself as human here. He's not included. Not befriend, enslave. I didn't disagree. Or, yeah, we were. Yeah, so that's us connecting with humanity more. Because we're like, yeah, that's us. It sucks, but that's us, right? So that's interesting. I like that. I think, again, down the middle. I didn't disagree. When you put it that way, I answered, unsure. I'm not saying it always works out, but the intention is good, and I believe the men who kidnapped the wolves wanted to do something kind, he continued. Anyway, they took them. Out of the 6, 2 lived to see the cold summer that year. The wolf mother used to come to the farm they were at and howl. People went grey if they heard her. I knew that howl! And suddenly I heard that howl. I knew exactly how it sounded, and I felt despair and longing gnawing at my soul. I remembered how the cubs had reacted. They howled in response, they snarled at people, they whimpered for their mother to leave. Aww. They howled in response. Because that's sad. Howled in response. Every time she came, we howled back through the closed door, letting her know we were still alive. That there was hope, that we could grow up to be strong. Maya? Are you okay? Anya asked, putting her hand on my shoulder. I liked how he told the story. I felt for the cubs. It was nothing. I felt for the cubs. I just feel for the cubs. I know a little about divided families myself. Oh. Yeah, that usually ended the conversation. Daniel sighed, looking at the tree in the burrow. The cubs that survived were sold to some people in Hajnjauka? Wild stab in the dark, that one, not a clue. But after a while, both of them ended up back in Białowieża with the scientists. They were stationed in the national park. One of the wolves, Kazan, was a celebrity of sorts. If you saw any wolf photos from here, they're probably of Kazan. He was even on postcards. They shouldn't have moved the cubs. I kept thinking about the mother. It was a great story. I kept thinking about the mother. I wonder what happened to the mother. There's something missing from this story. I also felt like she was more important than the story made her out to be. What kind of wolf was she after all that? That's a good observation. She eventually stopped looking for her cubs. She came back to the forest and found new children. See, that's... yeah, his stutter came back. Guess because it's not such a nice thing for him to be talking about, I guess. There was a slight gust of wind and the tree creaked. I remembered that sound from my dreams as well. A sound that made me feel safe. Daniel is friendly. What happened to Kazan? Or I looked at the empty den, or how often had he shared that story? What happened to Kazan? And what happened later? I felt like I knew Daniel well enough to ask that. Is Kazan still alive? He lived for 8 years in the park. Daniel looked at me with his yellow-green eyes until they let another male wolf into his pen. I held my breath. They fought over the she-wolf and Kazan lost. Anya looked up from her phone. I've read about that. She sounded upset. They didn't notice he was wounded. It took him 3 days to die. Daniel shrugged. He lived a long life and died fighting. It was good. We fell silent. He looked at the burrows for a long time. This place is my friend, so I try to keep it important and respected. I think it's my mission, you know? I could relate to that. This guy was weird. I could relate to that. Family goal. I think I understand. Every family had a story worth remembering. Daniel looked at the tree one last time. Goodbye, he said. I also said my goodbyes. Goodbye, I repeated. And we left. And Pushcha is sympathetic once more. I guess we made our way back to town. I don't know how long this demo is. Not a clue. Not a clue. But maybe we'll do the town bit, and if there's like another like branching, we go to a bunch of places, then you know we'll leave that to another episode. But I'll go back to town, and we'll see what's what. The first evening, the B&B was quaint. When we got back, we were both drained. We were soon curled up in our beds. What a day! Anya yawned. So what do you think? I made a quick mental inventory of everything that had happened that day. Daniel was a strange guy. I was moved by the story of the wolves. I was freaked out by a vision of the barrows. They were cutting down the trees and I didn't like it. I can't believe they're logging here. I shook my head. Isn't the forest on a UNESCO list or something? Soon we were both asleep. Balanced. Okay, I got balanced rage. Okay. There's a little dog barking in the background. Because werewolf game. I lay in my bed for some time, trying to make some sense out of everything that I'd learned and experienced that day. The half moon was shining through the window, a gentle wind was blowing, and after some time, sleep came. I drifted off. A night in the woods. The teddy bears have their picnic. In a big city, old men sit in leather chairs, lazily enjoying their ever-growing wealth. They watch Bialawaitsa on flickering screens. They watch me. My senses are heightened. I see the moon cutting the sky in half. I am a weapon. I am a cub. I am a seed. Huh. Interesting. Ooh, I have no idea. But I guess this is... because we're balanced, I'm able to go with this. So I'll try and go down the middle. Wow, look at this. It's just gorgeous. Oh, I love the design of this game. It is stunning. Oh god, that's not good. Okay, I should probably read this, because clearly something's going down. I'm a wolf cub like the ones my grandfather told me about. I will grow, and my fangs will become sharper. I will taste blood. I feel a pull, and I surrender to it. I run toward a clearing. There are piles of fresh corpses of people who died too young, skinned and mutilated. Their loved ones stand around them, grieving, unable to do anything, waiting. And suddenly, they are just trees and tree trunks. I howl. I look around. I weep. I look around. More analytical. Lovely. That's what it's aiming for. I don't know why. I don't know what it'll achieve. I looked around. My nostrils flare. Who did it? Who murdered the trees? Oh, okay. It's the trees that are dead. The corpses are trees. I see. There's a stench in the air like meat rotting in acid, but somehow worse. I see the monstrous army. Their mandibles are whirling chainsaws. Their long metal arms are wrapped with black pipes, and they look like glistening intestines. Their smell is vile. They wait, unmoving. I charge at them. I turn to the forest for answers. I pay my respects to the dead. I think, again, we want to turn to the forest. The forest has been sympathetic so far, and maybe it'll tell me how to handle this. Good old Pushcha. The dead don't hold answers, and neither do the machines. I walk between the roots. Sorry, between the trees. Oh, I read that as roots. I walk between the trees, trying to hear their wisdom. They whisper to me, telling me to look at the sky. There, between the stars, two shapes circle each other. An old, sad wolf with grey hair, and a white weasel. They keep their eyes on one another as they continue their dance, suspicious, but not hostile. We need to fight the enemy. The awful rotting stench. I know that much. But how can we do that when we don't trust each other? They stop. They look at me. And the clearing. Balance, I look at them, cautious. Or analytical, it'll cost us our willpower again. We can reprimand them. Because I guess that's... I wonder if the wolf and the weasel are two aspects of the forest somehow. And they're too busy in that sort of, like, locked in that normal, you know, sort of nature's dance of the circle of life, all that lark, right? When they should be focusing their attention on keeping out the invaders, as it were. So, we need to be in bad weasel. Get a gun. We arm the weasel. No, that's probably not going to be the solution, is it? Stop it! You've wasted enough time. Once again, I don't recognise the words, but I understand. They come down to me. We've been waiting for you for a long time. Ooh. I wake up. Bunch of birds now. Oh! Oh, okay. I guess this is the demo. There we go. Thank you for playing the demo of Werewolf the Apocalypse, Heart of the Forest. The Maya you played was a judge, born under the half moon. Ooh. I don't know what that means, but, I don't know. Maya is the law, I guess. So yeah, that was... Huh. Don't know about you guys, but I'm ruddy intrigued. I am ruddy intrigued. So also, guys, as well as this game, there's a Vampire the Masquerade game in this same vein, by the same developers. So, you know, again, with a beautiful illustration and everything. It's actually released. So, I've been thinking maybe playing that on the channel. So, this was good for a one-off, because it's just a demo. But if you guys really enjoy this sort of setting, I can revisit this when, you know, the full release is out. Or, I could play some of the other one. And we can see what that's like. So let me know. Let me know what you think. Because I really enjoy these kind of games, these sort of narrative experiences. I find them really compelling. You know, same reason I love the sort of pen and paper RPGs. You know, I love that sort of just the stories with agency, right? It's something I love about gaming in general, but this is just more directly a story. It's telling something compelling. It's using language and art in a way that is very visceral and appealing to me. You know, there's enough scope for your imagination to fill in the blanks, but the medium itself is just a great inspiration for that. You know what I mean? Anyway, maybe not, but I like to think if you made it to the end of the video, then you kind of, you know, you're on board with that as a concept anyway. So, yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you want more. No promises, of course, because, you know, if only 5 people watch this, then I guess I'll just play the other stuff in my own time, right? But if a lot of you want to see it, then, of course, I'll put it on the channel. So, guys, if you enjoyed this, please do comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day, guys.